The Detroit Lions absolutely dominated the Baltimore Ravens on Monday Night Football with a 7-0 sack advantage. They were unstoppable in the trenches. Lamar Jackson was running for his life. And in the second half, the offensive line did whatever they want, and the Lions ran the ball at will. What up, though, everybody, and welcome to Lions Nation Unite. My name is Spencer Raxter of the Woodward Heavyweights. I appreciate you tapping in. Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to Lions Nation Unite. Also, give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, and X. And if you want some of the best merch in the game, go to lionsnationunite.com to get that for you. Okay. The Detroit Lions just absolutely dominated the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore on Monday Night Football, winning with the score of 38-8 after a garbage time touchdown by the Baltimore Ravens. And man, it really wasn't that close. We got a lot to talk about, from Johnny Morton to Jared Goff to the offensive line to the defensive line to a lot of different things happening and a lot of different players making big plays, like an Amon-Ra St. Brown or a Sam Laporta or Sonic and Knuckles absolutely dominating this game. But first things first, we're good. And we got to look at that defense, the Detroit Lions defense versus the Baltimore Ravens. 7 sacks, 30 pressures, 1 turnover forced, another turnover on downs, and it was just an absolute ass whooping. This Detroit Lions defensive line found something, headlined by our guy, Al-Quadin Muhammad. 4 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, and 3 quarterback hits. He was everywhere in the backfield, stopping Derrick Henry in the run game, getting after Lamar, and making sure when he got to Lamar, he didn't just get his hands on him. He didn't just hit him a little bit. No, he got him to the ground, and he got the sack. Extremely impressive by Al-Quadin Muhammad. Derrick Barnes also had a couple sacks. Aiden Hutchinson had a sack and a forced fumble. Trevor Nowaski had a sack. DJ Reader had a couple tackles for loss. This Lions defensive line was good. And they were really good. And they did it with everyone. It wasn't just Aiden Hutchinson getting there. Tyleik Williams had a couple nice plays in the middle against Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson in the run game. We saw Lacey, the man they picked up off of waivers from the Jacksonville Jaguars, go out there and make a couple nice plays, pressuring Lamar Jackson and forcing him to get rid of the ball a couple times. Now, I know I've been kind of leading the fray, and I've been going at this. We need an edge. We need another guy, especially when Marcus Davenport goes down. But golly, I'll tell you what, they looked really good out there. Aiden Hutchinson looked like he shook off a lot of the rust that he might have been dealing with in the first couple games. And man, he was just a man on a mission in that second half. We really saw him come alive, beating double teams, getting to Lamar Jackson, beating one-on-ones, getting to Lamar Jackson, making plays in the run game on Derrick Henry, all over the place, smelling out screens, making sure things couldn't get going, and allowing everybody else on that defensive line to eat because of him, because he was getting to the quarterback, because he was making plays, because he was getting these double teams. It allowed these other players to take care of business, like Al-Quadin Muhammad, who went out there and had 2.5 sacks. 2.5 sacks on Lamar Jackson, man. This defensive line for the Detroit Lions was just absolutely, totally, and utterly dominant. They went out there and they held they held Derrick Henry to 56 rushing yards, and they sacked Lamar Jackson 7 times. I know that the offensive line of the Ravens isn't all that it's cracked up to be. I know that they're not the best unit on this team, but man, that felt good. Man, that was good to see. And I know Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell were eating that up, looking at me saying, "You shut up, Spencer. We're good. We got our guys." Because, man, Al-Quadin Muhammad, there was a lot of pressure on him going into this game. With Marcus Davenport going down, he was the guy that was going to have to pick up the steam. He was the guy that was going to have to carry the load opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. They were using Pat O'Connor in the first half to try to stop the run and to do different things. But when Al-Quadin Muhammad was in the game, he was getting pressure on Lamar Jackson. He was getting sacks on Lamar Jackson. He had a couple tackles for loss in the run game, and he flat out looked fantastic. It was something that I was extremely excited to see, something that this team desperately needed, and something that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell expected. They loved this guy. They expected him to go out there and be that guy. They told you he earned a bigger workload. They gave him that bigger workload, and he came back with an A+ on the report card. Again, getting the player of the game. 4 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, and 3 quarterback hits, man. He was everywhere. He was making plays. And like I said, it wasn't just him. DJ Reader had a couple nice tackles for loss. Tyleik Williams had a couple nice tackles for loss. We had Aiden Hutchinson with a strip on Derrick Henry that caused him to throw a hissy fit on the sideline. Trevor Nowaski getting in there. We had Derrick Barnes with a couple sacks. It was just an entire team effort by the defensive line and those linebackers to get after Lamar Jackson and make him comfortable in the pocket every single snap. I loved it when Lamar Jackson would start to step up in the pocket. When Lamar Jackson would start to go do something in the pocket, either Trevor Nowaski, Derrick Barnes, or Alex Anzalone would come screaming down and meet him at the line of scrimmage. They were not allowing him to get in the open field, and they were cutting him down before he could get loose. It was an impressive display by Kelvin Shepard's defense, and that defensive line really went out there and put on an absolute show. Now, on the other side, this was something in the first half, this offensive line struggled. In the first half, Jahmyr Gibbs was getting hit in the backfield. In the first half, this offensive line was truly struggling to get the push in that secondary, to get the push in the run game. They did a great job protecting Jared Goff the entire game, but man, in the second half, it was like offensive line porn. The blocks they were making, the perfectly executed double teams releasing up to the backer, whether it was Graham Glasgow, Tate Ratledge, Christian Mahogany, or Penei Sewell, they were driving players back and creating run lanes for Jahmyr Gibbs and for David Montgomery. It was one of the best played offensive line halves I've ever seen. And that includes this team with Frank Ragnow and Kevin Zeitler and all those guys. This offensive line in the second half was so physically imposing, the Baltimore Ravens defense couldn't do anything to stop them. Look at these stats. 224 rushing yards and 0 sacks allowed of Jared Goff. This offensive line played out of their minds. Like I said, Tate Ratledge, there were multiple different times where you saw him absolutely driving a guy to the second level, breaking off, getting to the linebacker, whether it be Roquan Smith or somebody else, making the seal, and the running back just going right off of his ass. You had Penei Sewell doing what Penei Sewell does and moving people around the football field. Graham Glasgow had such a good game. Christian Mahogany had such a good game. And the Gray Bush Taylor Decker held it down on the opposite end. This offensive line absolutely came to play tonight in Baltimore against the Ravens. The first half was kind of shaky, but man, they locked it in the second half and played on an absolutely different level. And that led to David Montgomery having a night. 12 carries, 151 yards, and 2 touchdowns, averaging over 12.5 yards per carry. David Montgomery said this was a year of reckoning. David Montgomery said you forgot about him. And what did he do? He went out there in Baltimore and absolutely put foot to ass. This offensive line was creating holes for him, and he was plowing through them with extreme physicality and with no remorse. He was dragging tacklers. He was breaking free, making nasty jump cuts behind his open hole. David Montgomery put on a show, and he remembered Lions fans why it's Sonic and Knuckles and not just Sonic. And Jahmyr Gibbs had a great game as well, 2 touchdowns on his part, and the same thing. But David Montgomery had to let Lions fans know that he's still here, that he is still that guy, and that he is still the hammer in this offense. David Montgomery just put on an absolute show. It was very impressive to watch him go to work. It was very impressive to see the things that he did behind that Detroit Lions offensive line. And now I want to talk about Jared Goff. This guy, Jared Goff, went out there and did what he does on Monday night. Now 8-2 in his career on Monday night. Jared Goff played a hell of a game, whether it was the big third down passes to keep drives alive in that long touchdown drive of 89 yards to Sam Laporta, or the perfectly placed ball over the shoulder to Amon-Ra St. Brown on fourth down when you had to have it. Jared Goff consistently stepped up, consistently made the right play, and consistently delivered the ball on time and on target to his receivers. He put on an absolute show out there, truly outdueling Lamar Jackson. And Lamar had a great game in his own right. He had 288 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was putting that thing on a platter for different players. But Jared Goff had the timely passes, the timely throws in the right situations, and didn't take a sack. We saw him moving around the pocket. We saw him getting out and taking runs when they were available, trying to make plays on the run that maybe he shouldn't have, but Jared Goff was moving around well in the pocket for the second consecutive game now, because remember, he did the same thing against the Chicago Bears. It was just an awesome performance from Jared Goff. Amon-Ra St. Brown is on another level, and these running backs are just too good. This is the first trio of teammates. David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Amon-Ra St. Brown have all scored a touchdown in the same game 10 times already since they've been teammates on the Detroit Lions. Just absolutely bonkers stuff out of this Detroit Lions offense. And shout out to the man behind the game plan, Johnny Morton, the offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions, put on an absolute show against the Baltimore Ravens. I saw multiple different plays that had multiple different wrinkles, that had multiple different things you could do on top of them to create offensive opportunities for your guys. He had a back set he had a set in the backfield in I formation with Sam Laporta as the up back, David Montgomery in the middle, and Jahmyr Gibbs as the deep back. You can either hand it to the up back, fake the handoff, hits the tight end, which was Brock Wright coming on the pop pass, hand it to David Montgomery, or pitch it to Jahmyr Gibbs. So many different wrinkles on that one play. That made me very happy. Obviously, the touchdown play in the red zone where Jared Goff hands it off to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown pitches it to Jahmyr Gibbs, and he walks in for a touchdown. And then the call, the balls, the skill, and the ability on that fourth down to absolutely get Marlon Humphrey caught up on the run fake. Amon-Ra St. Brown breaks out, and Jared Goff puts it up there for him for a first down. The rest is history, man. Johnny Morton called his best game as the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator in Baltimore in a hostile environment, their first home game of the season, and man, he really took it to him, especially in that second half. He said, all right, we're going to run the ball. Good luck trying to stop it. He leaned behind the strength of his offensive line, and I thought Johnny Morton had an absolutely beautiful game, from play calling to play design to mechanics to situational awareness. It was just flawless from the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator. What a game for the Lions. What a win for them, starting off 2-1 and now tied with the Green Bay Packers for first place in the NFC North. Just like we all thought the Lions are 2-1 to start off the season. Now, maybe the wins came at different spots, but man, I'll take them. What a game. Absolute and total domination in the trenches by the Detroit Lions. They made one of the best teams in the NFL, in the Baltimore Ravens, scared, afraid, and sorry that they were playing the Detroit Lions, because they kept punishing them. And I cannot stress enough how dominant the Detroit Lions offensive line was in the second half of that game. It was clinical. Every single block had a purpose. Every single double team broke off to a linebacker. The seals by not only the offensive linemen, but the wide receivers and the tight ends, all of them blocking their ass off, all of them knowing they can physically dominate the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. When's the last time any team in the NFL has been able to say that? The Detroit Lions went out there and they kicked some ass and they ate some crab cake, and they're coming back to Detroit 2-1. Just an amazing performance all around. Again, the defensive line and the offensive line put on a show and willed the victory for this team. Jared Goff was masterful. Johnny Morton called a hell of a game, and Sonic and Knuckles are back, baby. Detroit Lions win 2-1 on the season. They're coming home to play the Cleveland Browns. Man. That was awesome. Appreciate you guys tapping in. Make sure you smash that like button. Follow Lions Nation Unite on Instagram, X, and Facebook. Go to lionsnationunite.com to shop all the best merch in the game. I am Spencer Raxter of the Woodward Sports Network. Again, I appreciate you guys so much. Shout out to the Detroit Lions. Shout out to Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell. We're good, because you look pretty damn good against the Baltimore Ravens. Detroit Lions 2-1, coming home to play the Browns. Let's get it, baby.